Okay, so what do you do in the chicken tractor on steroids when you have entirely too much rain? Hey, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. And if you've been following us as far as this chicken tractor on steroid system goes, you know that we're in week number 8 now. Had these been Cornish crosses, the video would be very, very different. We'd be putting them in the freezer this week. But these guys are Red Rangers. And so in this system, I have so many more options that ordinarily I wouldn't have. Now these guys are in here producing compost. They're eating without any store-bought food, so they're not costing me any money. But today I want to kind of focus on, last week we talked about tips and tricks within this system. But as nature would have it, another tip kind of came to us, and it's what to do when you have excess amounts of rain. Well, I don't see it as excess amounts of rain, but just an abundance of rain within this system. Now, typically your compost piles from previous weeks are backed up this way. And they're open air, which meaning, if it rains, they're going to get wet. If it's dry, they're going to get drier. So water in this system is kind of important. So we knew in the forecast that we were going to have a few days of a lot of rain. So in that case, you're dealing with a couple of different things that you have to mitigate. Number one, if you get these piles too wet, they're going to become anaerobic, which they did a couple of weeks ago. And it was my own fault because I knew it was going to happen. So what you do in those cases is that you do what we've done right here. So all you do, cover it up. Or if it makes better sense, depending on the nature of that pile, which means you have to have at least some understanding of how to make compost, which isn't that hard, folks. Go back and watch previous videos where we show you how to make an 18-day compost. All we do, in this particular case, we said, okay, let's just go ahead and flip it. We'll cover it up. And you're going to find out that it's broken down considerably more had it just been an open air pile. Now, unfortunately, the chickens don't have access to it, which means they don't have access to their normal means of protein. But it's not going to bother them a couple of days to have to procure at other places. Now, the wonderful thing is, if it rains, it's going to naturally bring up a bunch of other protein sources that they don't necessarily get every day, particularly worms. Now, if you watch them after the rain, just like any other chicken, they're going to be out here foraging. They're going to be doing things chickens do. So they're not necessarily getting protein from this pile, but they are in fact getting it in other places. So if you have to cover it up for a day or two, no big loss, no big problem. All you do, when it clears up like it looks like it's going to do today, it looks like we have chances of rain later, but it's going to be light rain. It's not going to be a steady stream of constant rain. So here we are, week 8. So what we're going to do, back here behind me, we have piles. We have weeks 1 and 2. That's roughly 3 cubic yards back there. This is 1.5 cubic yards. And what we're going to do is, if you go back and watch the previous videos, we're going to combine this pile with a 1-week pile. So every 2 piles we get, we're going to combine them because we're seeing much, much better improvement that way. And plus, in each pile is the equivalent of about 3 cubic yards. So with that said, all we're going to do at this point is do what we've done so we don't rehash the same thing over and over again, folks. Just go back and watch previous videos. It's the same exact routine. But in this case, all we're going to do is break down, we're going to move the birds. Remember from last week, we're going to move the birds first, break down the compost cage, combine these 2 piles, reassemble the compost cage with their bedding from last week. So like I said, go back, watch those other videos if need be. You'll get that figured out. Now, also to the new people doing this, folks, or I'm getting a lot of messages from folks thinking about whether or not they want to go into this lifestyle. Well, keep in mind that when you do this, inclement weather is just part of it. There's no two ways about it. It's part of it. But we know that there are possibilities, there are ways in which you can raise animals in a very antiseptic environment. But we also know that within those environments, you're going to have issues with health. You're going to have issues with anemia. You're going to have a number of other issues with those animals. So we could take these animals and raise them in a very sterile environment where we're going to deal with a number of other issues. Or we can put them outside where we ourselves, homesteaders, permaculture designers, farmers, whatever the case may be, we put them outside where they have the benefits of sunlight, blue sky, green grass, wonderful soil, compost, microbial interaction. All those things come together to make meat that you cannot buy in the store. So as a side note, it kind of makes me wonder that if we know the prescription to raise really good animals, why are we taking a prescription where we confine ourselves to a self-imposed CAFO operation in the house to stay healthy? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get to this and start flipping these piles, and we'll move on. All right, so here we are 8 weeks into this system. And when I told you we were going to do it better, well, we seem to be on the road to doing that very thing. Now, the last time, every week pile was 1 cubic yard, but we've been doing 1.5. And these guys are still pretty small for this system. So each of the piles you see here, every time we make that compost cage and it's filled to the top, is about 1.5, maybe a little bit more cubic yards of material. So each one of these bigger piles, where we've combined 2 of them, is 3 cubic yards. So here we are 8 weeks in, and we have 2 piles, each 3 cubic yards apiece. Of course, that's 6 altogether. And we're still going to go quite a ways more. Now, remember, in the last system, we produced 7 cubic yards total. And here we are at 6, and we still have a while to go, depending on when we decide to process these guys. But like I said, the longer I keep them out here, the more money it puts into my pocket. Now, I get a lot of questions from people that are considering doing this system, or people that are new to homesteading, have an interest in permaculture, farming in general. It doesn't matter. Now, let me address you folks specifically. Now, if you're looking to do this, I'm not going to kid you. It does require a fair amount of work. Now, within this system, if you're making compost, let's say it's an 18-day compost, you're going to flip that roughly 9 times over that 18 days. The benefit of this system, at least as I see it, is that you're only flipping it yourself 4 times, but over the course of about a month. Or it could be a little bit longer if you want to refine this stuff a little bit more. So there are benefits to it. But you're not just dealing with 1 pile. Every time you flip it, which for us is Sunday, we're flipping every single pile. For it being that time of year where, as if you haven't noticed, I'm putting on a little bit of weight, it's because there's pumpkins around, and there's apples around, and there's pies around, which I'm going to try to, remedy my intake of those things. But anyway, this is a workout. Ain't nothing easy about flipping piles, folks. So if you want to get out here, get it something of a workout, create wonderful soil for you, this is the method for you. If you want things that you can't possibly buy in a store, no matter how healthy the food is, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to put in the work, and it requires a lot of it sometimes. And in this system, it is management intensive, so keep that in mind. So here we are, week 8. Cover up the piles if you have too much rain. Let them go otherwise. Add moisture when you need it. Shouldn't be bone dry. So until next time, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy, where PIMP stands for permaculture is my passion, because it really is. We'll see you next time.